in your corner, friend. I'm in your corner anytime the trouble is on.
Comrade Chairman, Acting Chairman of the party, Horace Daly, all of the officers on the platform, our new Vice Presidents, congratulations and welcome to the team. Comrade Members of Parliament, Comrade Senators, Comrade Delegates of the People's National Party. We are small in number here, but we are numerous in Zoom land. Yeah. And of course, members of the media and viewers watching at home. This weekend, our party has come together in a virtual space for our annual conference for the first time. And I just want to congratulate the Secretariat and the team that has put together this conference. It has not been an easy task, and it has been a very different experience to what we're accustomed to. But I believe it has been a very fulfilling and successful conference. A lot of important business was conducted, and I believe all of the comrades who participated felt that it was an exercise well worth doing, and I thank everybody who participated. We join in conference at a time when Jamaica is in crisis. After inheriting an economy in 2016 that was on a growth trajectory, with unemployment and poverty both showing steady improvement, the Jamaica Labour Party government failed dismally in delivering the promised 5 in 4 growth target. And indeed, in the last year leading into the COVID pandemic, the last normal year, 2019 to 20 fiscal year, Jamaica showed no growth whatsoever. Violent crime continues to get worse with each passing year. Murders this year are 10% over the same period last year, despite nightly curfews and frequent no-movement days, like today and indeed tomorrow. Far from Prime Minister Holness delivering on his promise that we would be able to sleep with our windows and doors open, people are afraid to leave even their keyhole open. Fear stalks the land, with one terrible incident flowing after another. Children are being shot dead in their sleep in their beds and abducted. Women, frequently the victims of murder, and there is no hope in sight. This government has no strategy for bringing this situation under control and reversing the trend. The cost of living has also exploded in the past year. Basic food items have increased way more than the published inflation rate. Indeed, when I compared the pricing of a list of basic items from a leading wholesaler in April and again in August this year, the overall increase was 15% in less than 6 months. The Jamaican dollar is like a bouncing ball going down a hill, manipulated by the major financial intermediaries to shore up their balance sheets, but steadily trending in the wrong direction. On the other hand, wages have been stagnant, and many people have had their incomes reduced due to layoffs and business failures. People are hungry. We have been calling for over a year for a program of regular distribution of support for vulnerable Jamaicans, but the government's response has been tardy and inadequate. In 2020, they did a single payment of $10,000 for the most vulnerable in the run-up to the early general elections that they called. The use of online applications meant that many in need could not access that benefit. More than a year has passed since then, and they have just announced another payment, perhaps signaling that local government elections are just around the corner now. Well, as the whalers taught us,
you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time.
that's right, you can fool some people sometime, but you can't fool all the people all the time. This Jamaica Labour Party government has made a name for itself as the most corrupt administration in the history of Jamaica. Their first term was riddled with scandals in an orgy of looting of public resources. There was a debushing scandal in the run-up to the last local government elections. The used car scandal, and now the cars can't be found. Petrojam scandal, NESAL, the Universal Service Fund, the Caribbean Maritime University, and several others. And in the past year, we have learned of the Airports Authority of Jamaica breaching public financial regulations and its own investment policy to make a massive investment of public funds in a startup business in which a politically connected director had herself invested and then became a director. Then we learned of Nutrition Products Limited, overseeing contracts worth over $140 million with entities owned by its directors or their related parties, even as it cut back on its core business of providing meals to poor people picnic in primary schools. Imagine teething the picnic them Nutrabullet. Shame. Just this week, the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education was sent on leave after yet another adverse audit by the Auditor General, revealing another pattern of irregular payments involving over $100 million of public funds paid through an entity called the Joint Committee of Tertiary Education, which was in the public sector and somehow miraculously ended up in the private sector having received all these funds. The society has grown numb from these recurring scandals. The agencies that were set up to enforce the anti-corruption laws are yet to show that they have what it takes to hold the looters accountable for their thievery. Across the world, the pandemic is exposing how vulnerable we are to shocks in global supply chains and the interconnected global economy. This is all happening amidst the worsening threat of climate change caused by greedy, short-sighted, and ultimately unsustainable global economic arrangements. The stark inequalities that plague our society have been worsened by this pandemic, undermining social cohesion and sapping the will of the people and their sense of hope for a bright tomorrow. The Jamaican people want to see the People's National Party coming together to provide workable, effective solutions to these immense challenges. In other words, Jamaica needs PNP strong. In the post-Cold War era, ideological clarity for progressive parties like ours became somewhat blurred, as we were forced to reassess our approach to economic strategy and recognize the importance of prudent fiscal management and debt sustainability right across the world that happened to progressive parties. In Jamaica, it was the PNP government of the most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, with Dr. Peter David Phillips as our finance minister, that finally embraced the national project of reckoning with Jamaica's long-standing burden of high public debt. The constraints of operating within the realities of the world's financial markets and globalization meant that the room for policy maneuver was restricted at that time. However, within 4 years, Jamaica was successfully placed on the path towards debt sustainability, and that was supported by legislative and institutional reforms to ensure that that remarkable achievement will not be derailed. The success of these reforms has meant that once this country gets past the current economic shocks caused by the COVID pandemic, there will be greater opportunities once again for us in the PNP to assert our progressive identity through policies and programs that are true to our ideological roots and progressive orientation. We have laid the wicket, and the opportunities will come. At this early stage in the electoral cycle, we, being in opposition, have the opportunity to reflect deeply on who we are and what we stand for in the third decade of the 21st century. Many of us look back to the 1970s and the heyday of Michael Joshua Manley with great nostalgia for all the transformational achievements of that liberating period when Jamaica first really came into its own as an independent nation on the world stage. 50 years have passed since that era, and the world today is a very different place to what it was then. The Soviet Union is no longer. Economic power is rapidly shifting to the Far East with profound geopolitical implications. Communications and the flow of information, and indeed misinformation, have been transformed with the emergence of the internet and social media. All of these have created new challenges and opportunities for our political movement. Michael Manley put it well when he said in the early 1990s, shortly after his retirement, and I quote, "The PNP will not serve a historical purpose if it is only a manager of that which is given. The PNP's historical role has always been the architect of change. If the whole political system becomes incapable of renewal through change, then you're going to find that the system will begin to lose credibility, lose momentum. Young people will have less and less faith in it. And the terrible cynicism, which is such a problem in Jamaica today, can become entrenched." End of quote. Comrades, friends, Jamaica has grown tired of the main political parties being mere sedate managers of a set of givens, administering over a political economy marred by corruption and failing to tackle the fundamental problems plaguing the society. They want to see new, bold, but practical ideas that can bring real change by tackling those fundamental problems head on. And that is what makes PNP strong. It is for this reason that the Policy and Vision Commission has been established under the able chairmanship of Professor Tony Bogues to lead the process by which the party revisits these fundamental questions and defines our contemporary answers to them. Professor Bogues put it well in a recent article, and I quote him, "As the party renews itself in this period, there is no social movement from which it can draw, yet it has to be bold. For this, it has deep intellectual, historical, and political resources. Those resources begin with the profound point of N.W. Manley that the party must place the interests of the masses above all else. Second, from Michael Manley, that the mass democratic political party is one whose political objective should be the transformation of Jamaican society. A kind of transformation in which the ordinary Jamaican will be a citizen who has dignity, education, and the resources so that he or she can make a life. A society in which class and color codes and where one resides does not block life chances. One in which the dignity of human life is sacred and human rights are deeply recognized." End of quote. Comrades and friends, the strength of our movement must be forged on a common purpose. Our collective commitment is to the empowerment and upliftment of all Jamaicans to create one Jamaica for all Jamaicans. That is what makes the PNP strong. The way in which the current Prime Minister's orders under the Disaster Risk Management Act have been enforced during the pandemic has deepened the general belief that there are, in reality, two Jamaicas. One for the wealthy, the powerful, and the politically connected, and the other for ordinary Jamaicans who face the full brunt of these arbitrary and sometimes oppressive laws. We have seen where people were fined $200,000 or face 30 days in jail for not wearing a mask or being outside their homes during curfew, while champagne birthday parties for political activists on no movement days carry no legal consequences. This kind of differential treatment undermines social cohesion. It breeds cynicism and resentment in the land. Our party's aspiration is to build a society which manifests the principles of equality and an unwavering pursuit of social justice. Our mission is to eliminate the structures of inequality and unfairness that we have inherited from our colonial past. And this is what makes the PNP strong. We must also draw strength from our commitment to utmost integrity in our management of the affairs and resources of the people. The deep cynicism about the political process in Jamaica needs to be countered. It is a real danger to our democratic way of life, providing fodder for those who would further an autocratic agenda. The PNP will be committed to making the anti-corruption laws and institutions of Jamaica, many of which were conceptualized and developed during our last administration, work effectively for good governance. The systems of accountability cannot exist only in theory. People must see them working so that they can believe that the rule of law applies to us all. That is what will make the PNP strong. Comrades and friends, we are a progressive party of the democratic left. Our policies and programs must be about tackling inequality and investing in our people so that they are empowered to hold their own and thrive in an competitive global economic environment. People must be the center of national development. It is by increasing the productivity of our people that Jamaica will attract investment in value-added products and services. It is by investing in our people that we will see levels of sustained economic growth and a strong economy. And we need a strong economy, comrades and friends, so that we can afford the critical investments needed to eliminate the adverse social conditions that feed through to crime and violence in our country. This is the essence of our task. I am not fixated on historical labels of political scientists. As Michael Manley himself put it, and I quote, "I have never, ever been committed to labels. There is a restlessness in me always to find if there is another way to make something work, to try to change a structure that creates the poverty and the injustice and the elitism. So my attachment is not to labels." End of quote. Indeed, it is consistent with the progressive orientation of our party since its formation 83 years ago. And once again, Joshua Manley eloquently put it, basic forces that never change re-emerge in forms that are adapted to the new reality. Our principles are immutable. They will always guide us. They will always guide us forward, comrades. And we just need to find how we change them, how we adjust them, and how we make them relevant to the issues confronting us today. Comrades, the party itself is going through a process of transformation and renewal. Over the past year, in my capacity as party leader, I sought to honor the legacy of O.T. Fairclough, the visionary who conceptualized the PNP and brought in the right, excellent Norman Washington Manley to be our first president. We have established a new institution dedicated to providing support for our party workers who have fallen on hard times. This O.T. Fairclough Trust Fund for Party Workers was funded with an initial endowment of $15 million in December 2020. It has governance oversight by a reputable and esteemed board of trustees and a grants board drawn from all of the regions of Jamaica and from our affiliates. It has already begun to make a positive difference through housing and educational projects for our party workers who are in need of assistance. Comrades, our youth must be engaged in envisioning and designing the future that we wish to create. I therefore appointed the Junior Shadow Cabinet, comprised of 17 talented and committed young comrades who care deeply about our nation. They are already grappling with current policy issues and bring the insights and perspective of their generation. I am also committed, comrades, to democratizing our internal election processes by reforming our party constitution to embrace the principle of one member, one vote. One has to ask the question, why should every member of our party who is in good standing not enjoy the right to vote in party elections? The delegate-based voting system belongs to a bygone era, and it is time to modernize the party by deepening the democratic principles by which we operate internally. The Structures Review Commission has been working on this, and I'm pleased to say that Conference approved the resolution being sent to the regions for consideration so that it can be taken next year. Comrades, I will move to talking about COVID-19 and vaccination. The government earned accolades in the first half of 2020. Thank you, babes. The government earned accolades in the first half of 2020 for its eager attentiveness to the COVID pandemic. However, that was before their reckless and politically motivated decisions that opened the floodgates to community spread. Since then, they have badly mismanaged the COVID crisis. They called an early general election right after loosening the protocols to facilitate the 2020 emancipation celebrations. And the election campaigning inevitably took the COVID crisis to a whole new dimension. The day after the election, the Ministry of Health announced that community spread had taken hold in Jamaica. Then over Christmas, the predictable influx of Jamaicans from COVID-infested lands, unfortunately, worsened the problem because no adequate measures were put in place to protect our people here. And this led to the deadly second wave in the first quarter of 2021. Further mistakes were made at the end of June this year when the government decided to loosen the protocols at a time when the extremely contagious Delta variant was spreading across the world like wildfire. And Jamaica's vaccination program had barely got off the ground. I warned that they were skating on thin ice when they did this. The deadly third wave followed, and it continues to this day. There have been some serious mishaps along the way. Perhaps the worst was the botched arrangements to ensure adequate supplies of oxygen for this deadly respiratory disease. This caused a fateful weekend in late August when many hospitals did not have the oxygen needed by patients and several persons died. Our calls for an independent inquiry into the circumstances of that debacle have so far gone unheeded, and I repeat the call again today. We want to know, the people of Jamaica deserve to know why that happened. At this point, over 2,000 Jamaicans have died of COVID since the pandemic began. The vast majority of them this year, and our hospitals still have nearly 400 COVID patients. It is clear that the inoculation of our population is the pathway out of this COVID crisis. However, Jamaica's vaccination program has been in shambles. The government was slow to get it going. They put all their eggs in one basket called COVAX, and they failed to pursue bilateral arrangements early and with alacrity, despite us telling them that that was the way to go. That led to our CARICOM peers sourcing supplies before we did, and Jamaica is still close to last in the vaccination of our population. And when the vaccine started coming, the take-up has been disappointing, unfortunately. With only approximately 2% of the population fully vaccinated, Jamaica still ranks near the very bottom of all the countries in this hemisphere. The distribution system is too limited. The government has failed to establish centers of vaccination within communities, despite it being clear that many people are unable or unwilling to incur transport costs to travel to parish centers and have to wait long periods when they go there to get the jab. Other obvious methods of distribution, for example, through the network of private doctors and pharmacists, have barely been tapped. There's a task force that has been appointed under the chairmanship of Gordon Shirley, and we hope that they will bring some more methodical thinking and better execution to the critical issue of vaccination. The use of the Pfizer vaccine, gifted to us by the US government, has itself been scandalous. It is the only vaccine approved for use in children under 12 years, children of 12 years and up. The public was originally told that it would be used to vaccinate those children so that face-to-face schooling could recommence once 65% of the children had been vaccinated. But then the government shifted policy, and adults were being given their first jabs with the Pfizer at various one-day blitzes, despite there being other available vaccines that adults could use and children could not. Only around 19% of the school children 12 years and up have been vaccinated. And then on September 14th, 2021, the health minister announced that the Pfizer had run out. So the situation is that school children are no longer being vaccinated, and thousands of adults have been unable to get their second jabs on the scheduled dates given to them by the Ministry of Health, with no word as to when the next shipment of Pfizer will get here. To add insult to injury, we discovered that despite the minister having told the public that the Pfizer had run out, in October this month, adults were still being given the Pfizer in community blitzes in his constituency and in other JLP-controlled divisions. The Prime Minister, on his vaccination tour, while the opposition has been excluded from the process. The politicization of the national vaccination program is the last thing that Jamaica needs. It should be a national effort with all hands on deck. We remain willing and open to play our part. We endorse that vaccination is important to getting this country through the crisis that we are in. I am vaccinated, my family is vaccinated, our parliamentarians are vaccinated, and I have encouraged many people to get vaccinated. However, I do not think that, as a practical matter, the government can force adults to take the vaccine. When a large portion of the population is reluctant or even outright against being vaccinated, many people still fear and distrust the vaccines. And trying to force these people to take them is just impractical at this point, and it would only fuel serious tensions in the society. Furthermore, in the absence of a properly managed distribution program and serious limitations on access to vaccines, mandatory vaccination is unworkable. How can the government mandate the taking of a vaccine that is not readily available and accessible to many Jamaicans? Other countries have achieved high levels of vaccination through making it very accessible and backing that up with solid information to educate their people about it. And that's what should be happening here. Jamaica needs a powerful PR campaign that clearly explains in a balanced and credible way the clear benefits of vaccination, while at the same time addressing the relatively rare risks involved. It must be balanced, and counters those false arguments that are based on the misinformation that is so pervasive across the internet. We also think that incentives should be provided to encourage persons to take the vaccine, and these benefits should be provided immediately upon being vaccinated, with a minimum of bureaucracy. We have to turn the tide on vaccination, and the way to go is to incentivize people to take it and educate them so they understand what's at stake. A voucher redeemable for food items would serve a dual purpose of bringing up the vaccination numbers and also providing relief for families that are struggling to survive in the harsh economic climate. As regards the workplace, our view is that employers, both in the public and private sectors, should follow the vaccination protocol that has already been cooperatively developed by the employer groups and the trade union movement. It requires an assessment of the risks involved from the circumstances of each employee's place in the particular enterprise. It also requires due process in how the matter is dealt with at the workplace. And then it provides a fair and balanced pathway to requiring vaccination in those situations where it is necessary to do so, after the employee's views have been duly considered. That is a dignified way of ensuring that people get vaccinated who have to get vaccinated. Comrades, in the execution of our mission to tackle head-on the most fundamental challenges facing the Jamaican people, there are some policy areas that will be the focus of the next PNP government, and I want to speak to a few of those. Education. The Jamaican school system is failing too many of our children, and that was prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic has just made it much, much worse. A minority of secondary schools deliver good outcomes for most of their students, while a majority of students from other schools end up leaving without the basic minimum 5 CSEC subjects, and many of them end up with none. The truth is that many of our underperforming secondary schools receive intakes of students from the primary level who have not achieved the basic competence of maths, English, and critical thinking. The causes of this low level of educational performance should be resolved at the early childhood and primary levels. There is no reason why all primary school students should not achieve basic competence in maths, English, and critical thinking by the time they move to secondary school. The People's National Party will make a sustained investment in early childhood development, supported by a comprehensive policy to address the broader needs of children from birth onwards. This will be supported by a sustained program to raise the standards in all primary schools that are delivering substandard outcomes now. We must end the educational apartheid in this country once and for all. The aim is to ensure that all children entering secondary schools are equipped to master subjects at that level so that they can go on to achieve success at the secondary and tertiary stage. We will bring an end to the educational apartheid that contributes to the intergenerational poverty in this country. That is why PNP is strong. Tertiary education is a vital pathway to social mobility. We need to make it as affordable as possible for students from low-income households. the next PNP government will reconfigure the loan structure used by the Student Loan Bureau so as to cap monthly payments at 15% of monthly income to ensure that it is manageable for our young university graduates. I repeat that point. The next PNP government will reconfigure the loan structure used by the Student Loan Bureau so as to cap monthly payments at 15% of the borrower's monthly income to ensure that it is manageable for young tertiary graduates. The state and not the student should bear the risk of employment creation. So we will provide a payment moratorium for students who are seeking work. And we will abolish altogether the requirement of finding a guarantor to access student loans. That is why PNP is strong. I am also calling on the government to provide each teacher in the school system with their own laptop at both primary school and secondary school level. The tablets that were issued to the teachers some time ago are not suitable for teachers, and many of those tablets are no longer working. Laptops are better for building presentations, they have more storage space, and are more robust and can last for years. Each teacher should get a tablet, get a laptop. I move to crime and violence. Jamaica desperately needs a sustainable solution to its problem of very high levels of violent crime. It's a desperate situation. Our people are being murdered this year at even higher rates than last year. Domestic violence is higher than ever. Violent crime is fed by a general collapse of moral norms, discipline, and behavioral standards, which as a nation we must address. The fear and sorrow caused by such high levels of violent crime sap the hope of our nation and our belief in a better day tomorrow. There is also a massive economic incentive to solving the problem. According to the World Bank, crime results in direct cost to Jamaica of nearly 4% of our annual GDP, when Jamaica has failed to achieve constant annual growth of even 2%. So that 4% is a massive cost to our society. We believe that a balanced approach will yield the best long-term results in the sustained reduction of violent crime. It cannot be achieved by resorting to oppressive laws that abrogate the rights of our people. Cannot. In our last term of office, programs like Unite for Change and strengthening the Peace Management Initiative helped to bring the murder rate down by 25% below where it is now. We did it before, and we will do it again. That is why the PNP is strong. Under the next PNP government, there will be a well-funded national program to provide opportunities for vulnerable youths to get another chance to become productive citizens. Through mentorship, training, remedial education, and job placements, reinforcing their life skills, building their self-esteem, and building a sense of citizenship, which must be the core of every young Jamaican. There will be a strong emphasis on programs that intervene in conflict on the ground to avert escalations into the spiral of reprisals that often lead to more and more killings. By training and empowering 500 violence interrupters across Jamaica, that is our commitment. We will also intensify and broaden the use of mediation and restorative justice in communities, not just as an adjunct to the formal justice system. This is why PNP is strong. I move to housing and infrastructure in the communities. Low-income communities across Jamaica suffer from poor infrastructure and a lack of basic amenities for modern living. Substandard living conditions contribute to negative social behaviors and persistent poverty. We are committed to a major thrust in building affordable housing and for empowering occupants of dilapidated housing stock in inner city and rural communities to upgrade their homes. This is why PNP is strong. We are also committed to ensuring that these communities are no longer relegated to second-class status when it comes to the basic amenities like street lighting, garbage disposal, and water and sewage infrastructure. Investing in these communities will be an important complement to the reduction of violent crime in our country, as social neglect contributes to the lifestyle and attitudes that result in youths turning to badness and the gun. I move to agriculture and rural development. This pandemic has shown that we need to diversify the Jamaican economy so that we're not overly exposed to any one industry. Agriculture and the rural economy need to become priorities in our economic development plans. The next PNP administration will have a strong agricultural policy. We must support our small farmers by improving farm roads, irrigation systems, and storage facilities for excess crops and meat products. And we must get serious when it comes to tackling pre-deal larceny. We must bring that under the Proceeds of Crime Act and have serious penalties for those who would ruin the prospects of our farmers who work so hard to feed the nation. Time come. We must also remove bureaucratic obstacles to investment in the agricultural sector, incentivize capital to flow into agro-processing of value-added products, and our trade policy must support the opening of markets for our export agriculture and our agro-industrial products. Agriculture will be a key to economic development going forward. That is why PNP is strong. I want to touch briefly on the subject of Portmore. The Jamaica Labour Party wishes to split off Portmore as a separate parish from St. Catherine because it would suit their political ends. But will this benefit the people of Portmore? No. The people of Portmore now have the benefit of it being Jamaica's only city municipality, which gives them the legal right to directly elect their own mayor, a right that does not apply to any other parish. Why would we want to deprive them of that right? Furthermore, Portmore does not have many of the facilities and amenities that parishes have, including parish courts, a hospital, a market, a cemetery. Yet the government is rushing to make Portmore a parish without any of those things in place. Why does the Jamaica Labour Party want to make Portmore the only parish without those facilities? Our position is that the people of Portmore must be consulted fulsomely on any such move.
Farming over plastic, investment over graphic, inheritance for me seeds, me alright being made.
And ultimately, the decision of whether or not to go that route must be theirs via a referendum. Let the people decide. Don't leave it to the politicians. Comrades, the last subject I want to touch on is the minimum wage. In Jamaica, the minimum wage does not reflect the actual cost of living. We are committed to establishing a livable minimum wage.
Little bit of money, yeah. Little bit of money, yeah.
So that people who are gainfully employed are able to feed and look after their families. The next PNP administration commits to annual increases in the minimum wage to keep a pace with the cost of living. We will protect our workers. And with the increases of cost of living recently, and basic food items in particular, minimum wage workers have been waiting too long for an increase. Several years ago, Audley Shaw promised a minimum wage of $12,000, but failed to keep that promise. I am calling on this government to move the current minimum wage to $12,000 and repair that broken promise that was made to the Jamaican people. Comrades and friends, Jamaicans are tired of the mismanagement of this pandemic crisis. They are upset about the abuses of state power and the unfair enforcement of the laws. They are turned off by the looting of public resources that are for the people of this country, not for the private benefit of dishonest politicians and their friends. The Jamaica Labour Party government is rapidly losing ground, and the People's National Party is readying itself to resume state power. Our next government will resolutely and determinedly tackle the major issues facing the Jamaican people. That is what makes PNP strong. It is time for all hands on deck. It is a time for us to pull together as one team, united and strong. Our supporters are demanding that of us, and the public expects no less from us. I am confident that we are moving in the right direction, and this conference is a start for a new day. The people of Jamaica need the People's National Party back in government to deliver a bright future and a better tomorrow. Let us build our team and do the work on the ground that we have to do. Jamaica is depending on us, comrades. Let us answer the call. PNP strong. Thank you, comrades and friends. The word is love.
Let's get together and feel alright. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All the people there, listen again.
Don't leave, let me hear it.
Calling all comrades in
For
this
the
moment, it's
maximum
time to
leader
raise your
of the
hand.
People's
And we
National
continue
Party.
to put in the work and improve Jamaica land. From 1938, we are lead the way and that never change. And today, the strong foundation from way back when remains. We're moving forward, we not turn back. Building Jamaica, yes, block by block. The People's Party working non-stop. Fi put fi we country back on top. We're moving forward, we not turn back. Building Jamaica, yes, block by block. The People's Party working non-stop. Fi put fi we country back on top. Cause PNP strong. Yes, we strong. PNP strong. So come make we make Jamaica
Correct.
strong.
To the thousands
PNP strong.
who were on YouTube.